Hi everyone, Namaste, wherever you are across the globe. For those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Divya, and for those of you who are back, welcome back, and I hope that you enjoy this little video that I have made for you today. The reason I decided to make this video was because recently I was looking online for some veterinary internship and residency related videos, just because I'm about to be graduating soon, and I realized that there's so little content out there for veterinary students, first of all, and secondly for South Asian veterinary students. And I do believe that we as a demographic need representation, just because there are so many of us, and there is still this misconception that veterinary medicine is an unconventional degree, when in fact it is just as conventional as human medicine. So hopefully this is a video that prospective veterinary students can use to get some information on what it's like traveling abroad, and some things will be specifically tailored in the Australian context. In today's video, I'm going to cover the academic, the financial, as well as the social and emotional aspects of what to expect when you start and go through veterinary school. Obviously, these experiences are my own, and while I know that some of these experiences are objective and shared by all vet students, some of them are also extremely subjective, and you may or may not experience them as I did. I will put timestamps in the video below, so if you don't want to skip through some stuff, all the ammas and appas, the moms and dads, if you want to just listen to the parts about the academic and financial components, go ahead. And for the students, obviously I'm gonna talk a lot about the social and the important stuff, if you know what I mean, about moving abroad and studying abroad and vet school abroad. So hopefully that'll be convenient to sort of target your listening to this video as well. So let's get right into it. So starting with the academic, to give you some background, I had applied to vet school right out of high school. However, I decided to stay back home because I just wanted a few more years with my family. I felt like I needed to mature a little bit, and I really wanted to do my undergrad in India because I love the university culture, and I wanted to move away from home but be close enough that it wasn't a complete transitionary shock for me. Thinking back, I think that if I have ever made a good decision in my life, it was that one, because I actually did my Bachelor of Science in Christ University, Bangalore, and those 3 years that I did my undergrad in Bangalore were the best 3 years of my life in a lot of ways. Obviously, I'm very happy with my life now as well, but I think that it just cemented who I am and gave me an opportunity to live out those final years of my teenage in a really celebratory way. And it was phenomenal. Like, I was just able to do everything that I wanted to do. But academically, it also really allowed me to cement my foundational concepts, because vet school basically jumps into a lot of presumed knowledge. They expect you to have a fundamental understanding of biochemistry, of biophysics, of all your cellular processes, physiology. So for me, choosing to do biotech chemistry and zoology really gave me an advantage from an academic front and boosted my GPA in my first year of vet school here in Australia. So that being said, you can do a degree in anything. Like, you can have a degree in basket weaving for all they care, as long as you have those prerequisite courses that they require. Most vet students in Australia, or at least at UQ, are students who are doing their veterinary degree as a postgraduate degree and come with formal experience in some field or the other. But there are a couple of people who have come straight out of high school or have done 1 year of a bridging degree like animal science or vet tech before jumping straight into vet school. So the degree that I'm studying is a Bachelor of Veterinary Science Honours. So yes, this is my second bachelor's degree, but most universities will eventually switch to DVM. And honestly, qualification-wise, it makes absolutely no difference. And also with respect to what you study, it makes no difference. However, DVM is a 4-year degree and the Bachelor of Veterinary Science Honours is a 5-year degree, with that final year being a placement year. I know that you will hear from your peers and you will hear from me now that vet school is academically very taxing, and as I did, almost everyone says, oh yeah, it's fine, but I've studied a lot before. I've studied for my 12th grade board exams, my 10th grade board exams, I've studied throughout my undergrad. I know what the grind is like, but genuinely, vet school is a whole different level of difficult when it comes to the amount of academic intensity that you can expect. In the first year, it's not just academic, it's also the emotional effort that vet school takes. In the first year, your subjects are not very difficult, but in the second semester you start your dissections, and you have to learn the digestive and musculoskeletal anatomy of every single animal, all of the basic model animals. And I don't think anything really prepares you for walking into an anatomy lab 3 times a week and dissecting, the dead bodies of the animals that someday you wish to be treating. Being a vegan and someone who believes very strongly in animal welfare and ethics, you can also request that you use dogs that have been put down due to terminal illness and their bodies have been donated to science by their families. This is what I did, and it made me feel slightly better about doing those dissection tracks, but also from just a hardcore hit your books and study standpoint. During exams, you'll be studying for 20 hours a day sometimes, sleeping for a couple of hours, a few hours at most, and then, getting back to the grind. I would say that expect it, prepare yourself for it, and make sure that you take care of yourself so that you can sustain those sort of academic efforts. As in, I'll talk more about the things that I did in the social sort of emotional welfare component at the end of the video. But yeah, expect that you're going to have to put in the hours so that it doesn't hit you by surprise, and make sure that you start building a lifestyle that can sustain that level of academic and intellectual output. The last small piece of advice I would have from an academic intellectual point of view is have your core concepts solidified before you come to vet school. Whether you're in high school or not, it really doesn't make a difference. Make sure that you spend the time not sort of trying to get ahead and get into what they will teach you in vet school, but go back to the basics and have those sorted before you come to vet school, because that's going to take you all the way. Because with medicine, as long as you understand anatomy and physiology very well, you will do well as a student. There's no doubt about it. Okay, let's talk finances. My dad always says that I get really awkward when talking about finances, but that's only when, someone asks me if I need money and I'm like, I don't know. So, no. Jokes apart, let's discuss what it takes financially to study abroad. So at UQ, the annual fees is about $66,000 a year. From 60 to 68 is how it has increased, with the small annual increase in fees for me. So right now I'm paying close to $68,000 a year. And there are 2 options. Your family can either finance you, or you can take out a loan for that amount. The second component are your living expenses. So living expense wise, I spend an average of $1,200 to $2,000 a month. And Likewise, you can either be financed by a family, you can take out a loan, or you can work, which is the option that I decided to take. So while my parents personally are funding my education, thanks mom, thanks dad, I decided that I would do my due diligence and do whatever it takes to take care of my own, living expenses while I was here. So when I first landed, I used the fact that I had a degree in pure science and research, and I applied for a job as a research assistant. And in the next 6 months, I ended up, doing my own research project. And so I was employed by the university for the first 2 years. In the third year, I switched the research contract to a tutoring contract, and I was tutoring for the first semester of my third year. I was tutoring veterinary reproduction and digestive anatomy practicals. And in the second semester of my third year, once COVID sort of blew over a little bit here in Australia, I got a job as a veterinary nurse. I'm in my fourth year now, and at the beginning of this year, I switched over to a job as an emergency nurse at a slightly faster paced clinic where I was going to get more hands-on skill. And I'm working as an overnight nurse, so I work twice a week from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. and the pay is pretty good. It makes me enough that I can sustain my rent and my frugal living expenses here. Personally, I believe that working has been really great, because not only has it forced me to go out and get a job in a variety of veterinary related careers, it's contributed to my resume, but it's also made me have a lot of respect for the fact that money doesn't grow on trees, and it's taught me how to manage my taxes, it's taught me how to manage my expenditure, and overall just it contributes to you being a very well-rounded adult. However, it is hard to juggle both academics and work sometimes. So I would say that consider whether you can actually juggle the two of them. For me, I feel like it helps, because going and applying the things that I learn at school, at uni, sort of cements my understanding of the core concepts, but this might not be the case for everyone, and that's okay as well. When it comes to financial considerations, another big thing are your medical expenses. So this is something that I feel that my family and I were slightly underinformed about when I moved here, because the medical healthcare system in general operates very differently to the way it operates back home. So number one is most people are covered under the OSHC, which is the Overseas Student Health Cover, in affiliation with Allianz, the organization. And while this so essentially your walk-ins with the GP or your general consults at your university are all free, but anything else you essentially pay up the cost up front, and then you later fill in a claim form with the attached picture of the bill, and you send that in, and they will cover however many percentage of that bill according to the payment plan that you're on, which obviously differs according to whether you're filling out that claim form for medication or for a service, and also differs according to whether you're single or you're in a couple or you have a family. And finally, you have your miscellaneous expenses, which aren't counted in the tuition as well as the month-to-month living expenses, and these are the bulk payments that you will have, for your car servicing. You'll have to pay for your car registration, all of the other academic support things that you will need while you're here, as well as clothes and shoes. What also ties into how much you pay from a month-to-month perspective is where you live. So when I first moved here, I was living in a share house with 5 other women, and that was definitely cheaper rent-wise. I found a granny flat that my friend was moving out of, and I fell in love with it. Also from a social, emotional point of view, it was a better option for me. And then I also bought a car towards the end of my first year, and that also ties into how much I spend with respect to fuel and my car maintenance, my registration, my services, etc. And yeah, so to summarize, you can expect to be paying $60,000 to $70,000 a year for your tuition. And this will vary slightly according to the university, but more or less it's the same. Number two is you can expect to be paying $2,000 a month for your living expenses, and that includes your rent and your fuel and food. And finally, your miscellaneous expenses, that will vary person to person and obviously based on how much stuff you need to have to survive. Okay, so let's talk about the emotional and social aspects of moving from India to Australia to study in veterinary school. Okay, so as I mentioned, I did my undergrad in India. So it was a huge culture shock for me moving to Australia, where the university's culture is very academically focused. It was great because I had reached a point in my life where I was ready to focus all of my time into veterinary medicine and just in being a good student. And I, from an energy point of view, was also settled enough. But I definitely think I didn't have that level of focus and composure when I was 18 years old. So in India, there's always something going on at your university. Music, dance, fests, cultural events. Everything is just tied into university life. The student population is much, much higher. You've got a density of students that honestly you won't find anywhere else in the world. Yeah, the culture is very, very different here. So especially for vet schools, your vet schools are very rurally located. They're in small country towns that don't have a very large population, and your student population is also really low. So the chances that cultural events and exciting things happen are quite low. You've got a lot of introverts. Honestly, I don't think I even truly understood what an introvert was until I moved here and made my best friends are all introverts. I'm one of the very, very few extroverts that are there in vet school. Yeah, it's a very, very different culture. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for how isolating it can be in the first few months that you do come here. Another thing that sort of contributed to that sense of isolation and loneliness was the fact that I didn't have a car when I first came here. So even just to get groceries, I was dependent on my friends, or I'd have to wait for like the one bus that came in the evening after my classes were over, and I'd have to carry just enough groceries that I could fit into my bag and sort of take the bus back, because I was living on campus, not in the hall's student accommodation, but in a house, in a share house. One of the things that I would suggest from a social well-being and emotional well-being perspective is get a car as soon as you can, because that definitely, once I got a car, I felt much better just about my own sense of freedom and independence and being able to explore the country as and when I pleased. Yeah, to summarize, expect to be homesick. Make sure that you're talking to your family really regularly in the first 6 months. Unfortunately, the rates of mental illness in our profession are really high, and you may not believe it, but it is something that will come to the forefront of your priorities, hopefully, when you move to vet school, because you do understand that mental health is the first thing that will take its toll, just because of the amount of stress, the isolation, etc. So be really close to your loved ones, whether it's your boyfriend or girlfriend or your families. Make sure that you speak to them a lot. Invest a lot of time in finding new hobbies, and make sure that you connect with people that are on the same wavelength as you, because that's really going to help you feel more at home rather than feeling displaced in a friend group that may not be the right fit. Another thing that I wish someone had told me is that it's completely okay to go out alone. I think in India we don't go anywhere alone. and the whole community culture, even with friends, is very, very strong. But here, take advantage of the landscape. Even if nobody's free, just take your car out and go to a beach. So even if it's just to sleep for a few hours, go to the beaches, go on the hikes, because Australia's natural landscape is one like no other. It is absolutely beautiful, and it makes every single thing worth it. It makes the trip, it makes being away from home worth it. And honestly, it's the best thing about being here is just how much wildlife and how untainted the natural habitats are. Also, going out to clubs and going out to bars and going out to lounges and music venues or dance venues or cultural events alone, it's not something I ever used to do back home, but it's something that I've become quite accustomed to since being here. And it's where I've made the best of friends and met some of the most amazing people. So it's definitely something I recommend everybody try. If you are feeling emotionally in need of support, try and see if there is a peer support network. Since the first year, I have been very deeply involved with the peer support network of UQ, and this has been integral in me feeling like I have a really well-rounded community that shares a lot of the same values, and in me getting the support and giving the support that a lot of students need when they're in such a taxing degree. So let's talk about something that may be on some people's minds when I mentioned Australia. When I first decided to come to Australia, the main thing that all my relatives and friends were telling me is that that I'm going to face racism. And while I've lived a good chunk of my life in the US, I thought that was impossible. Now, while racism here will never be overt, nobody's going to come and, throw a racial slur at your face for the most part. There are a lot of small subliminal racial irritations that you will face on a daily basis. Starting with people wondering why you speak English fluently because there's a perception that Indians don't speak English, to wondering how you know about certain universal things that everybody knows about, to some of the more awkward ones wherein when I've been on some rural placements, I have felt really uncomfortable, and that also ties into me being a brown woman. So I would say that it has taken me a while to feel comfortable enough in my own space to stand up to it and to not try to chuckle or laugh off my discomfort, which I used to do in my first couple of years. From educating my friends when they say things that make me slightly upset, to the larger concerns and raising concerns with my university when I feel I've been discriminated against. I think that it's good to feel a sense of security that you don't owe it to anyone to put up with racism, and to stand up for yourself and your friends when you do see these sort of undercurrents of racism slipping into your daily interactions. Let's talk food. So food is also really important, honestly, at the center of most Indians and South Asians' existence. And so for me, being vegan, in a lot of ways, moving here was such a blessing, because the variety of vegan food that you get in Australia is just so much more than what you get in India. You get like 15 different types of plant-based milks, plant-based cheese, and for everything there is a plant-based option, essentially. That being said, you will miss home food. Thankfully, I love cooking and I'm a decent chef, so I like to maintain a kitchen wherein I get to cook a lot of the food that I love, and I get a lot of recipes from my mom. I hope that video was helpful, and to all of you new vets who are graduating, well done. And if I've missed out on anything, please comment below and let me know. To the prospective future vets who are going to be applying to vet school soon, all the best. I hope this video was able to help you in some form or the other. If there is anything else that you would like to chat with me about, do let me know in the comments or contact me on my socials. And for the parents who are watching this video, don't worry, your kids are going to do really well. They're going to be fine. And if there's any further information that you would like to ask me, please go ahead and send me a message, and if I'm not able to answer, I will get you in touch with my parents and they'll probably be able to answer those questions as well. So I hope that wherever you are, again, you're safe and you're healthy, and this video has put somewhat of a smile on your face, and I will see you very soon when I make my next video.